So, hi everybody and welcome back. This is Unreal Engine 5 tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 55 and we continue with our behavior tree. The last part which we have to set up is this AI controller setup, and of course you can follow here with the documentation because I just repeat it. But yeah, let's get into it. So what we have to do is we open up the AI controller and we'll set up what they do here. So let's go into it. Here is the AI controller which I created in my I think we have created this already, right? If not, I'm not sure. You can go here to artificial intelligence and then click here. Not here, sorry, that was the wrong place. If you have not created it, you go here to blueprints, then right here AI controller, and then you will find it here and name it correctly. And then we open up this AI controller and I see I have already coded a little bit. So, and what I have coded here, I will explain today what this is and so on. Let's get started. First of all, we need a event on process. Event on process, you right click on it and write event on process. And what does event on process, and what it means is this controller, when this if this controller processes an pawn, then it can do something. And in our case, after we create this event on process, we drag out and say here, find this node, which is run behavior tree, because we want to run our behavior tree, which we created here. This is the one which we want to run. Of course, you just drag out here, right, behavior tree, and then you find here AI run behavior tree. And here you select your behavior tree. In our case, we have only one, or perhaps you have more, and then you select the right one. That's the first step. And that's it for this part. Then we create something new. So that was this one. The next thing is they get a AI perception, and you already probably know what a perception is. We already talked in my other videos where we set perception for the AI character, but the difference here is they set it for the controller, and that's a little bit strange actually, because right, so I can't drag out actually here the controller and see all this range things. It's not so visual, but I hope you still remember when we created our other AIs here. There I created this character, and you see this is the perception which we talked already. Okay, let's continue with that. What they do, so they create an AI perception in the controller, and from this perception you click on it, and then what we have to do is go to sensing config. So here is a little bit special compared to that what we did. We have here, go to the, okay, let me go here faster, sensing. So you go here to the AI perception and then to the sensing config. Let me show you where this is normal. So here is all up now, and then here in AI perception you can go to the sensing config, but of course you have not this one. You have click here this array thing, like it shows here, add an array, and then you just set this AI sensing, and here you choose which sense you want actually, not in. So the other AI perception which we set was, there was already all there, and you have just to deselect it, I think, when we compare it with the other one. Here you just say, for example, what you want, and in our case we want this AI side config, which means just what we can see. And after you set this up, then you set here, let's see what we have to set here too. Then you go here to the detection by affiliation and set up this detect neutrals too, because here is a problem with blueprint coding, which they mention here as well. And the problem is here this affiliation, or what this is works not with blueprints also, and that's why they make a workaround with blueprints. You can select here detect neutrals, and then they can detect, for example, player characters. And this player characters, they get one more step further. They said, okay, these player characters we have to identify, and they say we add all player characters a tag so the AI knows exactly who this player is. And that is the strategy which they are going to do here. So first of all, you have to activate this detect neutrals. This will be our player character later. And we have to tag our player character later as well. But let's continue here what they are going to do. So this one set, this one a little bit, this one, and then we go here on down to this on target perception update. Where is that? On down, you click on this one and this node pops up. So with that node, this is this AI perception system, and we will set it here a little bit, some parts. So what we set first is, you can see, first of all, he will get this actor has tag, and that was what I told you here on top. To detect this neutral character and to find a player character, we have now to do these steps, and this has to do something with tagging. Tagging means just add a tag so we can identify the player. So, and what you do is you grab from the actor as tag player, and this player tag here we have to set, and where we have to set for the enemy which you created. In my case, it's this enemy AI2. So I open this up, then I go here on the click here BP enemy, the top one, go here right to the details panel. I write tag on top, or you find just actor, and then here would where it says tag, and that was the wrong place. Sorry, not enemy. I opened the wrong one up. Of course, I have to open my player character, not my enemy character, because we want to identify not the enemy actor, because this is the AI who should identify us. Sorry for that. We have to go and find our player character. In my case, it's here, this BP Infinite Warrior. Now that one we open up, then we go here on top, and then you can go here to the details panel and then find this tag. Easy way, on top you write tag, and then it jumps up. Probably you have not this line to create a tag. You just press this plus sign, and then you write here player. And this is very important, that this name, what you write here, is exactly make a copy, perhaps the same as this one. That must be identical, because if not, it will be not identify your player here. So the best way is just copy this one or the other one here, or this one there. Okay, with that said, we can continue a little bit. So we have set up our player with tag, so later our AI know who our player is. The next step is we go from stimulus, and they use a breaks I stimulus, and the stimulus is actually this perception, and in our case it will be the side perception, so it's to see. So you drag out here and write break, and then you pop up this break as stimulus, and then you can see this stimulus. You can, of course, it's perhaps not, this one is perhaps not visible at start. For example, you should look like this, then you drag it down, you go here successful succeeded, and create a end node. And here one more info to this one, and they say you can hide all the other pins which are not used. And where you can hide it, you go here to the details panels, and you see here all the variables, and here are check marks, and if you uncheck them they disappear, and you can only see in what you are interested. In my case, I keep them. The reason for that is I want to see which options I have in general, but if you already know, of course, this node, just hide them. The code looks a little bit easier then. So with that said, we make an end node, and what an end node is, it's just a boolean, which means boolean node, which means both entries must true, which means succeeded, then this end will send here a message with succeed. If one of these entries is false or failed, then this entry will send a fail. And we use, of course, all time this kind of booleans with a branch, because the branch is the best candidate to say yes or no. And what we are going to compare here is the actor as player. That means he identified our player with this tag. And the next thing is the stimulus. The stimulus, which means the sightseeing has actually realized us, which means in the game, later in game, there will be a radius, and which means, with other words, he can only realize us when we are within this radius, and when we are, for example, not within this radius, it will send here a fail. So with that said, then it compares these two. If both are true, it will send here a true, and then it will create something like a timer. But before we create here the timer, I think we continue here on the down. So let's go on. So what they say here in the documentation, of course, read the documentation for a little bit more details and more explanations and so on. So, but let's go on. So they create a set timer by event. And what is this set timer by event? It is, yeah, well, like it says, it's a timer. And this timer will then create, yeah, set the timer. It's a little bit hard to explain actually here. That can take a little bit time to explain it, but just think about it. Just a timer which is set by the event, which means let's create it first and then we talk about it. First of all, you go out from the false and search the node set timer by, and you see we have here many options by event and so on, by function, by event. And the difference here by this event is you have to specify this event later. This timer will be set by this event. Right. Okay. And after you make this, they say you should set the timer value to 4. So this one, and after you set this to 4, you should promote this to a variable, and so that we can eventually change this variable, and it will has then this default values 4. And don't forget, all time compile and save so that you can see here the default values, because most time if you can't see here the default values, the reason for that is you have not compiled and saved it. Most time that's the reason when no default values are appearing. So with that said, we continue a little bit, and first here, let's see what they are doing here. They are setting here a setter, for example, this one. This is a handler. This is this time handler, and the time handler means I will do something later, and I will explain it later when we talk here this part what it is, what it's doing there. So here after this one, you may promote it to a variable and name it then empty timer like they did here, and then we have to create a custom event, and this custom event is actually our event. Also the timer will set by this event, by this custom. And how we create a custom event, like all time, right click custom event, and you see add custom event, and then you name it start enemy timer. So this event will start this timer here, and then we have to see which function it will what happens then after this event starts, right? And then let's continue a little bit and see what they do. So first of all, that's interesting. Now what this comes, they use here get blackboard. What is this get blackboard actually? Get blackboard is, let me write it how you get it first. Get blackboard, you write this one, and if you don't see it here, scroll down. It's most time down on, let's say, if you write here no blackboard something, most time you have just scrolled down and you see it anywhere there. So after you get this blackboard, which is this one, and first of all, what is this blackboard actually? And this blackboard is actually your where is this blackboard? Not opened up, so I go fast here to my quick start, And here, it is actually your blackboard here, which you have here, which means you have access with this to this three elements which we created here, all these keys here, and we want to set them or use them or something like that. So setting the values and something like that. So we are back to our controller and where we get the blackboard, and then we have drag out and then we set value, and then you see all these values which you can set here, you can see here as well. These are all these things what you can set, and in our case, of course, which we are created here. So, and then you write here just like it shows, set value. For example, if you want set a bool, for example, you want set here has line of sight in this case, then perhaps then you set as a bool. And here important about this node is here you can set the bool with checking or unchecking, or you get it from other place. But interesting is that you can see here this name is very important, that it's absolute correct. So that this name you have to write, and after you write this name it will be connected with your blackboard. So for example here has a line of sight and then entry name and so on. That's also very important. And the default value here, default value right has line of sight, I think, and that should be okay. And then here I'm not so sure actually if this if they set that too, because they said here has line of sight respectively for both by names to has. So it's an enemy actor. Yes, has of line and enemy actor. You write then here the values enemy actor. So what the K name as a default value. That's very important because I think I made this wrong because I made it fast and forgot to set that, and it was not working in my test. So let's continue. So after you have this one, you create another K again from this blackboard. You drag out and set value as object, and this time you create again this K, you right click promote to variable, and here you set this variable enemy actor like the name what they say here. And one more important thing, I think you should make them all public. What I mean with them is just open this eyes so they are instance editable. It is not shown here, but make this, I think. I'm not sure if this is absolute necessarily, but in my case it worked. So if you have any problems later, make them public, editable, because these variables actually will be set, right, and later used in our blackboard. And I don't know how they send them there behind the scene, I mean, but here it will work, I think. So let's continue. And then after you made this one, you have, this was just a setter. So we set here two values, has line of sight, and in this case very important, we set it to false. And in this case we set no object value here. And why we did set nothing here, the reason is this one is a false, right? The timer here, it checked if this is the player, and if it has sight to this player, and if it's one of them says no, then it says false, and then you should set here set value also has line of sight. In the blackboard, no, I have not lines of sight, and the object is set here. So why is this important to set it here? Because the blackboard here, what you see here, will be used later in our behavior tree. So this has line of sight value we will use here to say go or not go. That's why, and that was all the setting up here behind the scene in our AI controller. And after you did this one, you do the same, almost the same for the true. So with other words, here we just copy this part here on top, but here are one thing different. First of all, after the true, you get this enemy timer which we created here at this point, and then you drag out of it and search this clear and invalid timer by handle. So which means this timer will be, yeah, like it said, it will be cleared. And then what it does, what after this one, I said you should then we copy just the whole thing what we have here created here again, which means we set again just these two values again, but this time we say yes, because this is the true yes, this is the true branch, because yes, we won't set it because this both was true, and that means we see the player, also because the player has the tag player, that's good, that is us, our player character, and we have sensed them. The stimulus have sent something, and if that's the case, we say has line of sight. Yes, I can see you means that. And enemy actor, that's very important. We have now set this enemy actor in this. Who is that one? Who is the person, or who is the character, or who is the monster, whatever your object have? Who is this, what we see? And in this case, it's the actor. The perception, this A perception has sent something, and he has this actor. You can get this from here, and you have to set it down there. So that's fine. With that, we have already finished up this perception AI controller setup, but there is a little one, and I think I make this fast here too, because this one is not much, but made me a big headache, because in my case it worked not, because you had, or perhaps we make it not, we make here a break with this video, and in the next video I will talk about this one, because it made a little bit headache, but I think if you follow this tutorial, it will work. One more thing I have to say, don't forget, if you create your own character, I mean, if you create your own animation blueprint like we did in this tutorial, then of course you have to create again this animation blueprint enemy AI2. What I mean with that is I have used not here the default character. We have created this from ourselves, and the only really thing what we made here different is we named this character otherwise, so we have to rename this casting to this character. We had to remake this again here for AI2, and then again setting these variables and using these variables here. That what we already did, this 4 parts and the top one. Don't forget this, because this animation blueprint will be used here for this character. But if you use the default character like they did in the documentation, because here on top you can see they used here the default character, then you don't have to do anything special, I think, because they don't show it. So that said, in the next video we talk about the final touch, which is very short, this decoration, but a little bit hard to explain. But anyway, and then actually very easy to explain, but it worked not on my side. And then we talk about this behavior tree, why it's good, why it's not good. Okay, see you there. Bye.